Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is GSP 1201 or 2201 use of English for SCE. This is the first semester 2019-2020 academic session. I am Sa Umar and I will be guiding you through Module 6 Summary. What is summary? The OED defines summary as a brief statement or account of the main points of something. That is, you give a brief statement or a brief account or a brief summary of something which you have read. For example, as students, perhaps you may be asked, or you may require in many instances to summarize what you have read, for example in exams or in your tests. So it could be, as the example state, it could be notes from your text, from your books, a chapter from your textbook, or even an entire book, as the case may be. So whenever you are asked to summarize something, what you are expected to do is to provide a concise, that is brief, short, to the point overview of a text. Again, summarizing entails taking large pieces of writing and reducing them so that only the main elements are made available. So a summary is supposed to extract information from a larger text without losing the initial idea, meaning that you are going to extract information from the main text but without losing the main idea. In essence, you are not rewriting the text, but you are giving us the main idea in a shortened, condensed form. Again, you are only supposed to include what is in the original text. The person doing the summary or the person doing the summary must always use his or her own words to summarize. So use your own words to summarize, but only include what is in the original text. You are not supposed to bring in your own ideas or your own perception or anything like that. What you are supposed to do when you are summarizing is simply give us what is originally in the text, but in a shorter, smaller, more condensed form, using your own words. So there are 3 important steps in writing a good summary. One, first of all, when you pick up the text that you're going to summarize, you just scan through it quickly, making mental notes in your head about some important points in the text. Then you read the text slowly. Read it slowly, and as you are reading it slowly, you take notes. You take notes of the main points within the text. Then after you have taken those main points, before you start writing the summary, you skim through again. That is, look through the text quickly again to confirm the points that you have made. Now this will help you to write a good summary. If it entails you reading the text several times so that you can really understand the idea, you can go ahead and do that. Get the idea, make sure you read the text well, understand what it's talking about, then take notes as you are going, and then at the end you skim through it again to confirm the points that you have. Another form of summary is what we call the preface. Etymology, when we say etymology, we mean the origin of the word. Now the word preface comes from the French word précis, meaning something that is precise, clear, or to the point. Again, another definition, just like the summary from the EOD, defines preface as a summary or abstract of a text or speech. A precis is also defined as a concise and lucid summary of a text. A precis is simply put a summary of any written piece, such as an article, book, or novel. So here, a precis is a precise, clear to the point summary. So in a sense, it is also a form of summary, but at the end of the lesson, you'll see that there are differences between a precis and a summary. Now, a precis is an objective overview of the written text, just like the summary. It's objective in the sense that you are not supposed to give your own opinion of the text. What you're supposed to do is give a precise or a condensed information, or condense the main ideas, the most essential ideas in the texts, and present them as the precis. So essentially what you are supposed to do is give the main ideas objectively, without bringing in your own perception or your own subjectivity into it. This means that there is no need for deep critical thinking or critical analysis. You're not asked to give us your opinion of the text. A precis doesn't give opinions, rather it gives an objective view of the text. The text is about this, and this. That's what a precis is supposed to do. So it is generally short, but the length depends on the original text that you are summarizing. So, but there's a sort of informal rule that says that the length of a precis should be a quarter of the length of the original text. But imagine you are writing a precis on a book of 1,000 pages, for example. That means you have to write approximately 250 pages and call that a precis. In essence, you would just be rewriting the story again. So the length really depends on the main points, the essential points on the text. It can be as short as a paragraph. It all depends on how well you can condense the main information and present it as a precis. So unlike the summary, a precis requires a title. If you're writing a summary, you just go ahead and write the summary. But if you're writing a precis, you require a title different from the original title of the article or the textbook that you are summarizing, or that you are writing the precis. Steps involved in writing the precis. So there are 4 steps involved in writing the precis. Read the text first. You have to read it carefully, and you can read it several times. If it takes 4 times, 5 times, 10 times, the point is, read it carefully, understand what it means, and as you're reading, just like in the summary, you take notes. Take notes of the important information that is provided in the text. Then you structure the precis by outlining, and the outlining will be explained in the next slide. Then after you have written the precis, you revise, you edit, and you proofread. This is very important, not only in precis writing or summary writing, but even when you write your assignments. For example, when you write your assignments, always revise what you have done, edit what you have done, proofread what you have done. When you revise, you go over what you have done and make sure that everything is in order, everything is correct. When you edit, it's similar. You look at the text, take out the parts that you think may not necessarily, but in the process of writing you wrote them, but once you read again you realize that they are not necessarily necessary, then you take them out. Then proofreading means you read the text so that you ensure that the grammar is correct, spellings are all correct, punctuation is all correct, capitalization is all correct, everything is correct. So before you finally hand it in, whether it's the thesis you're writing, the summary you're writing, or even an assignment or a test or even your exams, then read again. So after you have revised, edited and proofread and it's okay, read again to ensure that it is objective, because as I mentioned earlier, what you do in a thesis is not subjective. Your own personal opinion doesn't come to it. So once you read again for the final time, you're also supposed to be checking the objectivity of the text, meaning that you're ensuring that none of your opinion about whatever it is that you are reading comes into the text. We all have opinions about things. Assuming, for example, you are reading a text for example, you're reading a text on a subject which you feel strongly about. Perhaps if you feel strongly about that subject, let's assume, for example, you're reading a text on snakes, and the text tells us that snakes are beautiful animals and they make good pets, meaning that you can keep them in your home and you can pet them, like you would pet a cat or a dog. Definitely you would feel, well, I don't know about you, but I would feel terrible about having a pet snake. So, but then if you are summarizing that text, your opinion about the text doesn't come to it if you're writing a thesis on the text. So your opinion shouldn't make its way into the text. Writing a thesis, outlining. So the point I was making previously, which is very important before you begin writing. An outline is a brief description of the components of a larger piece of writing. So when you sit down to write a thesis, you make an outline. I want to include this in the order that you want to include them. This will guide you when you come to write, because sometimes when you sit down and you want to write something, it is difficult to know where to begin, what you should put in the middle, and how you should end the writing. But once you read the text, you have jotted down the main ideas, you have grasped the text, meaning that you understand the text, you understand the text. At the end of the day, you outline the ideas step by step. You want to write the first point, the second point, the third point, the fifth point, the final point. Once you do the outline, writing becomes easy. So in writing a thesis, one should begin with an outline. An outline allows you to structure the thesis in a way that all the relevant points appear in the final draft, meaning that it will allow you to structure, as I explained, or to format the thesis in a way that you can see the major ideas coming logically one after the other. The original title of the material, then the main idea of the article or text. What is it about? What is the article about? Then, of course, once you tell us what the article is about, you have to tell us how the author arrived at the idea he arrived at. Definitely there must have been a process. If it's a research, for example, a research article, for example, there has to have been some methodology that you undertook, or some avenues you followed, or some roads the author followed in order to arrive at the final idea. So of course you include his or her conclusions. Then some important points that you have to note. A rhetorical verb should outline the author's main idea. So for example, if you want to state what the author says, here I have an example and I'm using my name, assuming that you want to state that, assuming that it is my book that you have read and you are told to write a preface about the text, about my book. So of course my name is Salma Sce Umar, and definitely when you are going to write about me, you use my surname, Umar. So here I'm saying Umar asserts, meaning that immediately you write asserts, you know that it is going to be followed by the main idea which the text that you have read is talking about. So, or you hold, this is the idea you hold dearly, or argues. Umar asserts, then you follow it by that. Umar asserts that, for example, let us go back to the snake example. I can say, for example, Umar asserts that snakes make good pets. Or in the text, or in the article, Umar asserts that snakes make good pets. Okay, so again, a preface should be clear. That is, clarity is very, very important, because if you use ambiguous sentences and you don't make sense generally, you jump from one idea to the other, you start one idea, you don't finish it, you jump to the other, that will make your work, the reader, the person who reads your work will not necessarily understand it. So you have to be clear and you have to be objective. As I have stated earlier, objectivity is very important in preface writing, because don't ever bring in your own perceptions, your own ideas, your own understanding. What you're supposed to bring in is your understanding of what the author says, but you shouldn't bring in any other thing that is not within the text. Again, it has to be coherent, meaning that it has to be meaningful. If it doesn't make sense, it is not worth reading. Again, it has to be concise. Brevity is very important. You can't afford to write too much, because if you write too much, you run the risk of actually repeating the text, and the point is not to repeat the text. The point is to summarize the text in your own words. Then it has to be correct, which means it has to remain true to the original text, which I have, which is related also to the point I've made on objectivity. So the major differences between preface and summary. A summary does not require a title, but a preface does require a title. A summary covers all the main points in a text. If, for example, you're given a text and you're told, write a summary on this text, and another person is told, write a preface on this text, for you, you cover all the main points in the text. For the person writing on the preface, only the most important points, the most essential points are included. So again, a preface is almost like a small version of the original text. You remain as true as possible to the text, but you have to take note not to repeat the text as such, but maintain fidelity to the text. Remain true to the text. Make sure that you only include what is contained in the original text. A summary does not need a conclusion, but a preface requires a conclusion. So at the end, you conclude what you have written. In fact, some scholars argue that a preface should be written in much the same way as you would write a regular essay. You know, a regular essay would have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. So when you're writing a preface, you should write in much the same way as you would write a regular essay. An introduction, the body of the work, and a conclusion. But a summary is just a concise report. No need to conclude the text. No need to conclude the summary, rather. So thank you very much. This brings us to the end of the presentation.